Hello and welcome to OpinionATE. I'm Kooks. I'm assuming the three of you watching this are from my TikTok, but just in case not, I'm Kooks. This is just a feeding tube, goes down into my intestines to slowly feed me. There will be an episode coming that explains what's wrong with me and how we got here, but for now we're going to start on a slightly lighter note. So today's topic will be things that should never have been normalised when we're in school. I just want to preface, this is all coming from someone that now, I couldn't even tell you the last time I had alcohol. I struggled to get myself to take my prescribed medications. Make that make sense. But we're going to be talking about my rat bag days, so let's get into it. So I found this question on Reddit, and it's just titled, "Are high school kids doing more dangerous drugs now, or was I just lame in high school?" I see people posting about weed pens, fake cartridges, all that stuff, along with fake weed and getting high off Benadryl, etc. When I was in school, we just had either shitty parents or older siblings buy us cigarettes, vape juice, booze, and then go to our reliable dealer for our weed. Was there kids doing crazy black market weed stuff then, or was I just lame? What's going on? I feel like teens are doing more dangerous drugs now than when I was a teen. Sincerely, your friendly neighborhood millennial. Okay, so I can already see the Euphoria High comments from a mile away, but Monster High would be more accurate because when I tell you we were gremlins, we were gremlins. Like, what did we think we were doing? Who did we think we were? So I'm gonna get into a few of my little stories that might help explain. To start with, I just want to note the fact that the last high school I went to had designated golf buggies for the principal to go chase students that were wagging or skipping to school in the park across the road from the school, and would literally chase them through the alleyways and the streets trying to get them back into school and whatnot. So if that sets the scene for you, great. So at that school in particular, kids would literally bury their instruments so they could go across the road, dig them up, smoke, go back to school, and like bury them and keep using them, which is just wild to think about now. But drugs in general, especially schmeed, were very normal when I was in school, and way too normalised. Like, it was redonkulous. I do just also really quickly want to say, if you are in an environment where smoking schmeed is normalised and a constant thing, it's not meant to be that way. Like, I know so many people that grew up with their parents that smoked. Their parents might have been the ones that actually gave it to them for the first time. I know so many people that would argue it's not addictive and whatnot, and you can have that argument of whether it's addictive or habit building, but either way, if your whole life revolves around having to do that in order to function, if you're doing it the first thing when you wake up, if you're doing it when you get a break from work to leave school to go do it, before you go to bed you need it, it's not normal. Like, and this is coming from someone that used to consume a disgusting amount, is now prescribed for 5 or 6 different things, and I have to force myself to have it now because I would rather have that over the other things I'm prescribed, like benzos and opioids. But I have been in a place where I was fully addicted to it, in my opinion. Like I said, you can argue whether it's an addiction or habit forming, but if you're that dependent on it, it's not normal. It can be a great tool for certain people with certain issues, but it's not something that should be constant, and it's not something you should be revolving your day around or your pay around or anything like that. Anywho, let's keep going. Okay, so when I went to that school, obviously smoking schmeed was very normalised, but there was also pingers and caps that were very normalised. It was an every weekend thing. Partying in general was an every weekend thing at minimum. There was Facebook pages, Facebook groups, Facebook group chats, Snapchat stories. Like, there was always something telling you where the party was, and we were going there. And the worst part, not the worst part, however, the fact that we were all so risky with it, like, you were either hitting the shoelace express at hours of the night you should not have been walking the streets, or you were getting in random people's cars to go out to a party in the middle of nowhere and then doing the same thing to get home, whilst under the influence of things that you shouldn't have even been touching or near, but everyone had it. So we'll start with the smoking. So I personally did start quite early, but eventually it was something everyone was doing, and I do have a story of getting busted at school for being high, so we'll start there. I was about 14, 15 years old, and I was in my science class. Now, at this point, like I said, not everyone was on that train just yet. So the girl sitting next to me, we're going to refer to her as B. B was very innocent, and B was also my sister's best friend's little sister, so we were in the same grade, they were in the same grade. Anyway, I'm in class, under the influence, and we're just in our science class, and I had a teacher that he wasn't scary, but he was one of those intense people. Like, he was very quiet, but very intense, and just, I don't even know how to explain it. But he obviously clocked that I was not sober, and without saying anything to me, emailed the school principal to come to our classroom. So what happens is, all of a sudden our principal's in our classroom and he's just standing in the corner staring at me. Now, because I was paranoid, I was trying to convince myself that he's not staring at me, he's looking at the whole class, he's just observing. No babe, he was staring at you, and rightfully so. So after about 5 minutes of him just standing there staring, he goes, "You and you, follow me," to myself and B. So we get up and we go, and she is completely oblivious of the situation. I wasn't someone that paraded around that I was not sober. Anyways, the whole way there, she's complaining about how hungry she is, because she was none the wiser. And we get down there and get split up. She goes first, and I'm sat in a different room of the office to wait for like an hour while they grill her. Eventually it's my turn. I walk into the room, and who's there? The school-assigned police officer. Great. Before I could even sit down, the principal goes, "Open that locker back there." He had a single standing locker in the back of his office, so he tells me to go and open the locker. I'm high and paranoid, so I'm like, what is about to jump out at me? Like, what is this man's game? He had no game, it was just, there was a mirror on the inside of the damn locker, and he goes, "What do you see?" I just turn around and I go, my eyes are a little red, but I have a lot of hay fever. Why? The next at least hour and a half, I'm getting grilled. They're trying to get me to admit to the fact I'm not sober. The school-assigned police officer, there was rumours that he smoked with students, but he's not really saying much. He's smirking every now and then. He's trying to like help egg on my confession, but not really doing a whole lot. Mind you, I had just moved in with my grandparents at this point, so I knew they were the one getting the phone call, which is literally the last thing I wanted at that point in time. And I only came clean that I wasn't in fact having severe hay fever on that day, like in the past 2 years. Anywhoosie, I didn't end up confessing to anything. I stuck with my hay fever story. It was pretty uneventful from there. I had to go find my sister because word of mouth had travelled, and she was like, "You're a dumbass." But anyway, that was like my first experience getting caught with that situation, and I was in year 10, so if that explains anything, we're going from there. I end up moving schools, and I end up moving schools to the school that had the golf buggy situation. At that school, I don't know if it was just the area, it was a lot dicier than the original school, but at that school everyone seemed to be smoking, at least. At that school, it was also so normalised to be into party drugs, and at the time it was namely pingers and caps. So caps were mostly MDMA, however a lot of the time it wasn't, and I can never tell if it was this almost naive, nothing bad's gonna happen sort of mindset, or I don't care if something bad happens mindset, if that makes sense. But like, why were they called beige Pikachu, blue Mitsubishi, double pressed green apple, like champagne MD? Just should not have been normalised and fantasised in the way they were. But I also have 2 stories to do with those drugs and school, because I was a dumbass. I cannot express to you enough how stupid I was back then, and like, it wasn't, it was almost like the consequences I equated to these drugs were like, oh no, they'll make me lose weight. Like, no, not at all. It was so stupid. Anyway, we'll get into story number 1. So story number 1 is to do with pingers. About 3 AM, the night before a school day, or the morning of a school day I should say, decide, we've got some blue Mitsubishis. I'm gonna take one. They last quite a while in your system, and as someone with already quite big eyes, I am so obvious when I'm under the influence, it is redonkulous. So anyway, I take them at like 3 AM, and then I go to school in a few hours time. I get there and it's school photo day. So it's school photo day, it's done down in the school hall, and everyone's like lined up to get their school photos done. And part of our friend group was right at the front of this line, and we obviously had just come in, so we go to the back and we're like waving at each other from opposite ends of the hall because we just got to school. They send one of our friends over and she is like, you need to get out of the school hall. The lighting in there was a lot darker than outside, and if you don't know, your pupils dilate the darker the room. So I get clocked immediately. They're like, you need to go home. Like, it is obvious. You gotta get out of here. And I did. I left. I went home. But I can't say I did the same for the other story. I was actually even dumber, believe it or not. I was sitting in the back of my business class, right? And I was like always in the back corner of this classroom. It was almost a computer lab, but classroom at the same time. And on that back corner wall, there was a door that led to like these little hallways for the teachers to get between classes. I can hear the school principal absolutely reaming out a student who, mind you, was in the 9th grade. I was in the 11th grade at this point, so really could have connected the fact that nothing was coming my way, but I didn't. I freaked out. I could hear him getting his bag searched. I knew I had caps in my bag, and instead of being like, oh, I should probably dispose of these or get rid of them or anything, I was like, well, if I eat them, they won't find them. You're at school. It is like the first period of the day and you're at school. Why'd you have them in the first place? But why the did you take them at school? Like, you're so stupid, so dangerous and so stupid. Anyway, I take them. And the rest of that day, I have people checking my eyes, telling me if it's really obvious or not. Every time I went into the school bathrooms, because the lighting was terrible, my pupils would dilate again. And then we get to 4th period. And our English teacher decides, we're going to turn the lights off and we're going to put a movie on. Go home. Literally just go home. Why'd you stay there? Anyway, Amber and I, rest easy, Miss Girl, we were sitting at the back of that class, and the whole time we're trying not to crack up laughing, because the whole time I'm like trying to make it look like I'm paying attention to the movie we're watching, but also trying to rest my head in a way that the teacher is not looking at my eyeballs. I never got in trouble, never got busted, but I am now so ashamed and embarrassed of that. Like, you are so stupid. Why'd you do that? Who did you think? Anyway. Those sort of drugs were so normalised, it was actually insane. It got to the point, there was this one party where it was out in the middle of nowhere again. There's a full DJ setup and lighting and everything, but it was a bush doof. It was in the middle of nowhere. We got a random lift out there again, also dangerous, also stupid, but everyone there is getting sloshed. Drinking was obviously very, very normalised. I knew so many people that drank at school, let alone every night or at the parties or whatever. Everyone was drinking to get blacked out every time. I didn't know that that wasn't the aim of drinking until after high school. Like, not everyone drinks and blacks out every single time. Stupid. But that was the vibe. We're at this party and there had been raids, so not as many of those party drugs were circulating at that time. But everyone was that desperate to be under the influence of something more than just alcohol that everyone at this party took Xanax at the same time as being sloshed drunk. Like, 1, so dangerous, 2, so stupid and pointless. Like, you literally... Anyway, so much did go wrong that night with all sorts of different people. As you can imagine, like, it was just a recipe for disaster. I'm surprised worse didn't happen. But that seems to be a running theme for a lot of these parties and stories. Yeah, I just, like, looking back now, Xanax was, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Xandamic. It was a wild thing to be thrown in the mix there, and wild that any of those things were ever normalised, but, like, normalised so much that people were that desperate to be more than just drunk that bars were going around. Like, what the... Anyway. Also, why were we getting so sloshed every single time? I don't know if you guys had this or remember this, but there was this alcohol called Divas. I'll insert a photo hopefully, but Divas was just lethal. I'm pretty sure it was technically like distilled wine or something, but it had like 10 to 12 standard drinks per bottle. We were drinking the entire bottle. They were like these bright coloured flavours. I always got the fucking blue one. And it was like, if you've had Midori, how it's sickly sweet, they were all like that. They were way too easy to drink, and it evolved so, like, you just watch it progress worse and worse and worse over the years. Like, Started off with getting a bottle of Divas, then it would be like a bottle of Divas and cruisers, and you'd drink the neck of the cruiser and refill that with Divas, so it would be a really strong cruiser. And it snowballed into like such a normalised issue. Like, no one thought anything of it. It's not until I got older that I realised how wrong and stupid and just insane half of this stuff is. But Divas don't drink Divas, okay? Okay. $10 for that bottle too, like, oh, never going to be a good thing. And can I just say, if you are in that kind of environment, it is not normal. You will cherish the memories you make with people that are like going to the beach with your groups of friends far more in the future than you will the patchy memories of a night out that you did every weekend with your friends. You're not missing out on anything if you're not going to those parties. And if this stuff does seem normal, it's not. Like, the quicker you stop doing shit like that, the quicker your life is going to actually become fun and memorable and worth living. But yeah, I just hate the idea of anyone feeling FOMO if they're not going to parties and stuff, and you're at that age, and it's just, you're not missing anything, I can assure you of that much. And anything you are missing, that's the thing. You don't know the things you miss when you aren't involved in them. Like, you've probably saved yourself from so many horrible situations, awful memories and trauma just by not going to them. You never know what you're missing, but like, I can almost 90% certainty tell you that it's nothing good you're missing out on. Like, stay home. Go to the beach tomorrow with your friends. Obviously when you're in school though, it's so easy to fall under like being easily influenced into what's normal, what's cool, what's trendy, what you think you should be doing, what you don't want to be missing out on. And it's such a spectrum. Like, it can be insane things like that with the partying and the drugs and just gross stuff. But it can also be as little as like wearing a full face of makeup to school every single day. The amount of people that did that for so long was just insane, and it just bred so much insecurity. The amount of people I knew that refused to go to school, let alone leave their house without a full beat on, it's honestly really sad. And I know it helped so many people in year 12. The thought of going to formal or your prom and no one being surprised at how you look because they see you like that every day was genuinely the thing that stopped so many people from doing that every day for the few months leading up to formal or prom or whatever you call it. It's just so much more exciting and impressive to step out with a full face of makeup on when it's not something everyone sees every day. So if that's something that'll help drive you to just allowing yourself to step outside without spending an hour and a half trying to change how you look in the morning, stick with it, man. This is such an odd thing to talk about, but I've never really heard anyone talk about it, so we're going to get into mental health for a second. Mental illness was something that was weirdly normalised, and I mean from quite a young age. Like, I'm talking things like self-harming and issues like that was so openly spoken about or shown. The amount of people I had to either save the lives of, literally from the age of the 7th grade is when I had my first incident like that. Either saved the lives from or had just openly shown me their injuries or would just openly talk about it and make jokes about it. It was so normalised that it's insane. And as someone that ended up in mental health wards and psych wards and stuff for a long time, I actually watched certain things be trends within mental illness. Like, and the worst part is, it wasn't getting help or changing the mental illness that was normalised. It was just having it that was normalised. So no one knew that that's not what your life was meant to look like, or no one knew that there was like a way out of it or a life that doesn't involve that, because a lot of people did start at such a young age when it came to that, but there was also no talk or about help or resources or wanting to change those things. It was just like quirky eventually, which it's so not. And as someone that was in those psych wards and mental hospitals and all sorts of things, I actually watched certain things within self-harm become trends almost. Like, I don't want to get into too many things in too much detail without that being asked for, but certain types of self-injuries became something that were almost a trend. It sounds awful to say, but that's because it is awful. And it's so sad knowing how normalised the mental illness or being unwell is, and almost There were certain people that really did look at it as if it was their trendy, quirky little personality, which is just its whole own issue, but it wasn't normalised to get help or actively try and change it, which I think is one of the biggest issues there. And it is possible. I have two analogies that I use quite a lot, but it's so easy for life to feel like you're stuck in a pit eventually. Like, there's no escape from it. You've ruined the rest of your life. There's no way out. Like, it's just this overwhelming impending doom of like, I fucked it all up. Like, I can't get out. And I often will use my little analogy of like, say everyone starts with 3 snowballs at the top of the hill, and those snowballs can be the environment you're born into, the family you're born into, whatever it is. And you would hope they're all positive snowballs, but sometimes you're born with a negative one in there, right? And as these snowballs roll down the hill and they grow, they're crashing into each other and sharing snow, and sometimes the negative snow spreads into the positive ones and makes them negative. And they keep rolling, and eventually it can feel like all 3 of those snowballs are just massive negative snowballs that are avalanching down on you and you can't get out. But that's not the truth at all. Like, you can get out of it. You can start getting positive snow mixed in there, and just like it turned all those snowballs negative, they can crash into each other and start spreading them into positive ones again. And you have little snowballs coming off the big ones that can be positive, and they build and build and build and build. And there are ways out of that feeling and out of that pit.
Like, I finna be in the pit. Like,
Someone take my vocal cords. It is possible, but it's so not spoken about. One, having that feeling of like impending doom and feeling like you've screwed the rest of your life. Like, there's no way out of this hell. But there is. And then I've got another little analogy I always say where it's like, you get so much pressure on how to get out of these things. There's like a timeline to life. There's a rule book to how you're meant to get better. There's not. It's your own journey. And if we look at it like it's a road trip, sometimes you're going to leave this town to go to the next one and realize, shit, I need to go back and get more fuel. And it's going to feel like you're going back all the way to the start. You're going to hate it. It's going to suck. But if you didn't go back here to get some more fuel, you never would have made it to the next town, or even further than that. And that's how I like to look at any type of recovery. There's no timeline. There's no rule book. Sometimes you're going to go a little far backwards so you can go way further forward. When you blend those two metaphors or analogies together, it just kind of shows like there is a way out of that pit of impending doom and I've ruined everything and there's no way out, and there's no timeline or rule book to it. Like, it's your journey. Sometimes you've got to fake it till you make it. I always say this to people, like, call it what you want, faking it till you make it, gentle parenting yourself, manifestation station, being delulu till it come true, like, literally call it whatever you want, but sometimes you have to start saying the opposite to your negative thoughts until you start believing it. And like, it does happen. This sounds really, really bizarre, but I didn't actually feel like happiness until I was 23 years old, and I didn't actually know what that feeling was at first. I was getting little glimpses of it, and I was like, it's weird, it's like exciting, but it's butterflies, but it's like, I didn't know what it was. And then as I was driving one day and I felt it again, I realized what it was and just started crying, because I was like, this is what happiness feels like. But in my head, for 23 years, I thought that people were faking it because it was like the trendy thing or the cool thing to be happy and positive, and people were just pretending that's what they were. Some people might be, but that's because if you fake it till you make it, you do start believing those things eventually. You've just got to start saying the exact opposite to what your brain's telling you constantly, because you don't realize how negative it is, especially when it all pertains to yourself. Don't realize how not normal that is, because it is your normal for so long. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but it is possible to change. It's possible to start living a completely different life. For all you know, in a year's time, your life could look so vastly different. But when everyone around you normalizes mental illness, or when it's all you kind of know because that's all your brain's done for your entire life or a long time, it's really hard to see past it, and sometimes you just have to start faking it till you make it. I know it sounds weird. I'm so sorry if it doesn't make sense, but just know it's possible for things to get better. I promise you that much. Alright, part of OpinionATE is having you guys send in your questions, your queries, your dilemmas, if you will, of what would you do. And hopefully eventually we can have other people coming on, sharing their story and also giving their opinion on these topics. So this is the what would you do sent in by one of our followers over on TikTok. She'll just be lurking in the comments. She said she might make herself known depending how this plays out, but feel free to give her any advice you might have in the comments, and she said she'll be reading it. For now, let's get into it. So, what would you do? I, 27 female, have a stepsister very close in age to me. Let's call her Rachel. Our parents got married in our senior year of high school, and she became part of my friend group when she moved to the same school as me. Two of the people in our friend group have been together since the 10th grade. We will name them Monica and Chandler. Sorry, Fran's is on in the break room as I type. Y'all have a TV in your break room? Anyway, moving forward. So, Monica and I were already close, but when Rachel moved to our school, we kind of became a group of 3 within our big friend group. After high school, we all went different paths but remained very close. However, I did notice Rachel and Monica got really close after we graduated, even living together briefly. I was always really close with both Chandler and Monica, and even got to be one of Monica's bridesmaids when her and Chandler got married around the age of 25. Not long before they got married though, Rachel had confided in me that on a drunken night a few months prior, while Monica was at work, Rachel and Chandler hooked up in a drunken mistake. I wish she never told me. I had such an intense internal battle because I felt loyalty to both my stepsister and my friends at the same time, and I felt like it wasn't my place to tell. I truly thought that they themselves would come clean. Anyway, fast forward about 6 months and Monica and Chandler announced that they're expecting. Of course, I was so happy and so excited for them, but all of those positive feelings were heavily overshadowed with the intense guilt for knowing what I know. Sadness for Monica and what would happen if she found out now, and honestly anger towards Rachel for putting me in this position. Their beautiful little boy turned 1 not too long ago, and we were all there to celebrate his birthday. I love them all, and I tried really hard to seem like nothing was wrong, something that Rachel and Chandler seem to be able to do a little too easily. But I can't stop feeling so insanely guilty for not saying anything back then, but also knowing it's not my place and it would hurt Monica so much more if it came out now. I don't know what to do. I love my friends and obviously love my sister, but I can't handle the shame and guilt I feel whenever I'm around them, and we live so close to each other, we all see each other and hang out quite a lot. I don't know what to do. I don't want to cut anyone out and obviously can't cut family out, but I also don't want to feel guilty every time I'm around them for something I wasn't even part of. What would you do? Okay. I actually had a situation that was not quite this intense, but very, very similar. And one of the first things I want to say is if you're part of a guilty party in that situation and you're not planning on rectifying the situation or coming clean or anything, keep it to yourself. Do not bring other people into something and share the guilt and stuff with them when they weren't part of it. She feels guilty for something she wasn't even actually part of just because she's now been confided in. And it is I understand that internal battle. It's your own morals fighting against your own morals. You don't want to be the one that's telling someone else's story or coming clean about a situation for someone else. But you also don't want to be almost encouraging or permitting the behavior of other people that you don't align with. And all I can say to you, my dear, is 1, it's not your fault at all, and 2, whether it's intentional or not intentional, distancing yourself a little bit is completely fine. If it is going to allow you to have a bit more mental space upstairs, like allow you to take your focus off that stressful situation and put it towards something a little bit healthier, you're allowed to do that. You don't have to keep all the secrets and pretend everything's okay if it's not okay. That's completely fine, that's completely normal. I'm sorry you were put in that position because it is a tough one to be in, especially having it be your sister. I can't imagine how hard that would be, but I almost recommend you talking to Rachel about it, explaining how overwhelming the situation is, how unfair it feels on you, seeing if she does feel any guilt, because from the sounds of that you don't think that they feel too guilty about it. Yeah, she's the one that told you, I would then tell her how you're feeling about it and see if you can almost come to this like middle ground or at least understanding with each other, because that is a lot of weight to be on your shoulders over something that technically didn't involve you at all in the first place. I'm so sorry that you're going through that. I hope you are able to heal, and you don't need to forgive yourself for anything, but I hope you're able to forgive yourself if you are struggling with that, and just know, yeah, it's not your fault. I'm sorry you ended up looped into it. I hope that beautiful little bubba that just turned 1 is doing amazing and thriving, and I hope that things have stayed loyal since then at the very least. But yeah, don't let that be a weight on your shoulders. You're right, it's nothing to do with you in the first place. That is very unfair and I'm very sorry. And if anyone has any advice for our diva in the comments, please let her know. I think we're going to end the episode on that note. Obviously this isn't quite a real podcast yet and this is probably a very short clip, but I just wanted to start somewhere. I love talking to you guys over on the TikTok and getting to know you guys over the last almost year, I think, has been incredible. I think we've got the sweetest, most loving community over there, and I'm so grateful for all of you. I hope that I can try and bring some good content for you guys. Hopefully one of the next episodes explains this whole shit show. And if you guys have any what would you do situations you'd like to send through, or any topics you want us to talk about or open a conversation about in the comments, let me know. Forehead kisses to everyone. Thank you for watching, and I hope I've got some good videos out for you guys soon. Bye, thanks for yapping.